By June, India will have a new government. Manmohan Singh will step down after 10 years as Prime Minister. His second term has been disappointing. The pace of reform has slowed and so has growth, now down to below 5%. Investors are keenly watching the result, and Indian elections are notoriously unpredictable. Here with me to discuss this is Victor Mallet, our Delhi Bureau Chief. Victor, what is at stake in this election?
Well, I think quite a lot. There's a real possibility that after these 10 years that you mentioned of slowing growth, we could have a much more robust economic policy, a policy of economic reform, of attracting investment, of building infrastructure, and we could have a more robust and muscular foreign policy as well. But that depends on Narendra Modi becoming the next Prime Minister at the head of a Bharatiya Janata party-led coalition government.
Well, investors are looking very closely at that. I mean, two questions. First of all, how likely is Modi to become the next Prime Minister? And are investors putting too much faith in what he can actually do about India's problems?
I think, as you said, it is very unpredictable. Nobody really knows what's going to happen. But the opinion polls are showing that the Bharatiya Janata party is the strongest party. He's a very popular leader across the country, mainly through television appearances and through these mass rallies that he's had. He's an amazingly good orator, so he manages to bring the crowds on side. So there's a real possibility that he will be the next Prime Minister. What is not quite clear is whether that would be with a lot of BJP seats in Parliament, which would mean that he could pretty much do what he wanted, or whether he would be in a coalition of awkward allies who would constrain whatever it is that he's going to do.
And if he could do what he wanted, what would he do, and would investors be pleased?
I think probably they would. I mean, the business community, foreign and Indian, is almost wholly behind Narendra Modi. That there is concern about his record. He was in charge of Gujarat, the state of Gujarat, when there were riots in which hundreds of Muslims were killed in 2002. But the business community has decided that what he has done in Gujarat, which is to attract big foreign investors, big industries, infrastructure projects, that he's done that very well, and they want him to do that kind of decisive leadership across the rest of India. So the business community definitely wants him to be in power. It's not quite clear whether the rest of India wants him to be in power, but that's certainly the way it's looking at the moment.
Right. This is a year of transition in India. Last year we saw that when there was just a hint of tapering, India was one of the countries hardest hit. Could we see a repeat of that this year as tapering gathers force in a year when we're not quite sure who's going to be in power, and even when we do get a new government, not quite sure what it's going to do? Is India vulnerable this year?
It's a bit hard to say because growth has slowed down very dramatically already, and that's actually protected India in a sense because the current account deficit has come down, imports have slowed very dramatically, exports have gone up a bit, but not perhaps as much as they could have. But what it means is that the current account deficit has shrunk. The rupee has remained relatively stable in the latest round of emerging market jitters. So it could be that India will actually survive the taper reasonably unscathed. But if there is a chaotic process of short-lived governments, which is not impossible at all, then that could again expose India to the wrath of international markets.
And just finally, I mean, India has disappointed recently, in recent years. Could it bounce back now?
I think it could. It depends on probably not so much on international confidence in India as on Indian confidence in India. And I think if Indian businesses, Indian investors, Indian small companies, entrepreneurs feel that the time is right for them to start investing again, which they haven't been doing, then India could bounce back, and that will in turn attract further interest from foreign investors as well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.